So here is the focused design process. There's 5 phases and 15 principles, 3 principles in each phase. The first is formulate, and then second is organize, third contrast, fourth is unify, and fifth is to simplify. For formulate, we have message, audience, and sketches. I'm going to talk about message. Here's a bad example of message. He's selling cars, but you couldn't tell that straight away because there's so much random things going on. So he doesn't have a very central idea here. And then here's a good example of message because the first thing you see is this big picture of headphones, and then in bold print it says custom fit wireless earphones, so you know what they're trying to say. The second is to organize, and that has shape, proximity, and alignment. I'm going to be talking about proximity. Here's a bad example of proximity. Nothing that is similar is grouped together. Everything is just scattered all over the place. There's no visual flow to the page. Your eyes don't know where to go first, and there is no white space. This is a good example of proximity. They have white space in between the words and the images. Here they have this big bottle that catches your eye, so it creates a visual flow on the page. The third is contrast, and that has asymmetry, value, and color. For color, here's a bad example of using color. They have all kinds of different random colors. There's no kind of color scheme. It's just very random. And then here's a good example of color. They use the triadic color scheme really well. They use greens, and then they have a blue in the sky here, and then some brick color in the dirt roads. And so that creates a triadic color scheme, which is where they are all separate, equal distance on the color wheel. So then there's to unify, and that has repetition, rhythm, and gestalt. For repetition, here's a bad example of repetition. She doesn't have anything that is repeating. There's all kinds of different shapes and colors and fonts. There's no kind of unity to it. And then here's a good example of repetition. They use the same kind of colors and the same kind of fonts with the bold fonts. And then they use 3 pictures, which is called the rule of odds. When you use an odd number of pictures instead of an even number, it balances it out better. And then lastly, there's to simplify, which is evaluation, elimination, communication. So for elimination, they have the same logo here twice, which is not needed. So you could take one of those out, and they did not. And then here's a good example of elimination because it's very simple. They just have what they need and nothing more.